Okay, folks, this winter will be very harsh. I am warning everyone. This is a very serious matter. An unprecedented storm is coming. We've got to have a real conversation about what's going down right now. Because while one nasty winter storm is finally starting to lose steam, something even scarier is brewing on the horizon. A seriously brutal Arctic blast is about to crash into the United States, and I mean crash. This thing is going to keep snow and ice stuck to the ground for days across a bunch of states. We're looking at temps diving way below zero in some spots, which means treacherous roads that won't improve anytime soon, and a real possibility of power outages that drag on and on. Before I get into the nitty-gritty, go ahead and drop your city or area in the comments, and I'll hook you up with a specific forecast tailored to where you live. Alright? Let me start by unpacking the massive winter storm that's been absolutely wrecking parts of the country these past few days. Nashville, Tennessee got hammered, and I mean hammered. Nearly 90% of the metro area is sitting in the dark right now. Trees are toppled everywhere across Nashville, including century-old giants that got completely obliterated by heavy ice buildup. The destruction is going to stick around for a while, and getting the power back on could take a week. Maybe even longer in the worst-hit neighborhoods. The silver lining: this winter storm is almost finished. With most of the heavy stuff tapering off as we head into tonight and tomorrow, we've still got freezing rain and snow coming down right now across New England and stretching back into parts of the Carolinas. Southern New England is getting pounded by heavy snow through tonight. Boston could easily see another 12 to 14 inches piling up. Connecticut, Rhode Island, and chunks of Massachusetts, Cape Cod included, are going to switch over to sleet for a bit tonight, turning untreated roads into skating rinks. Come Monday morning, there might be a concentrated pocket of heavy snowfall right over the Boston metro before the bulk of this system heads out to sea. Some spots in upstate New York, central and northern New England and Maine are bracing for a widespread foot of additional snow through Monday night. And that's on top of what's already sitting there. Some locations are going to wind up with roughly 2 feet total when the dust settles, or should I say, when the snow settles, generally speaking. This winter storm played out pretty close to what we predicted in terms of snowfall. Totals meeting or beating expectations in most places. The Ohio Valley actually went above and beyond, with areas like Cincy and southern Indiana racking up 16 to 17 inches of snow. Oklahoma came in a touch lower than anticipated, with widespread 6 to 12 inches. But the Northeast is absolutely crushing it right now, overperforming in a big way. Now, this winter storm did raise some red flags about ice buildup, but thankfully, power outages weren't quite as catastrophic as they could have been. A lot of areas dodged the worst of the freezing rain because most places ended up seeing way more sleet than we initially thought. Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana got more sleet than freezing rain, which is actually a win for the power grid. Atlanta ran a bit warmer than expected. The Carolinas had less moisture to work with, and North Texas saw more sleet than freezing rain overall. Unfortunately, though, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Tennessee are still dealing with widespread outages that could drag on for a week or more. This is because of all the downed trees and shredded power lines, especially around Nashville, which took an absolute beating. Here's where things get really dicey moving forward. And this is the part you need to laser focus on. What's coming after this winter storm is actually more worrying than the storm itself, all because of the bone-chilling Arctic air that's barreling in. As we roll into tonight and tomorrow, an extremely fierce Arctic blast is going to push all the way down to the Gulf Coast states and the Southeast. We're talking temps as low as 0 or even below 0 in places like Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, and Little Rock. The Ohio Valley is going to get slammed with seriously intense cold, too. with wind chills potentially plummeting to 20 below zero in some spots. Let me break down city by city specifics so you know exactly what's heading your way over the next several days. Dallas-Fort Worth. You're looking at temps crashing to 0 or below tonight, and you might not climb above freezing until Tuesday afternoon. Any leftover moisture on the roads is going to freeze into a thin sheet of ice tonight, creating slippery patches even if it doesn't knock out more power. Oklahoma City. Pretty much the same deal. Extremely cold air is settling in, and temps could hover around or below freezing straight through. Wednesday, Little Rock. You should creep above freezing by Tuesday, which will at least help melt away some of that snow and ice. Small victories, right? Nashville. You're facing a long stretch of below freezing temps that's going to keep snow and ice hanging around through at least Thursday or Friday, with 90% of the city in the dark and temps staying this frigid. This is a genuinely dangerous scenario for anyone without heat. This is serious stuff, folks. Memphis. Similar situation. Very cold air is sticking around, and recovery efforts are going to crawl along because of this sustained freeze. For areas across Tennessee and Kentucky, most spots are going to stay around or just below freezing through Tuesday and Wednesday. Atlanta and Huntsville could see temps dip back below freezing tonight, meaning any remaining wet stuff on the roads will ice over. This opens the door for a really thin layer of ice forming overnight, which can create slick spots and messy travel tomorrow morning. The Midwest and Ohio Valley are staring down morning temps around 10 to 20 below zero tomorrow, with wind chills that feel even worse. Chicago, Indianapolis, and Cincinnati should all brace for brutally cold conditions that'll hang on through the middle of the week. Boston and much of New England. You're still battling ongoing snow today and tonight, with more accumulation piling on top of what you've already got. Once the snow wraps up, extremely cold air swoops in with temps well below normal through at least Wednesday. New York City and Philadelphia. You're on the northern fringe of the heaviest impacts, but you'll still see very cold temps settling in. Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. Looking at well below normal temps through the week, though you should mostly stay above zero. Could be worse. Honestly. Now here's what's especially troubling about this Arctic blasteats. Not just a quick 1 or 2 day freeze before milder air swoops back in. By Tuesday and Wednesday, you might think things are getting better, but the remnants of that Arctic air are still going to be camped out over the southern plains. And once we start seeing another wave of Arctic air drop down from an upper-level low-pressure system in Canada, that's going to shove even more cold air southward. This could crack the door open for some low-end snow possibilities across parts of the central and eastern U.S. during the middle and end of this week. And then check this out, by Friday and Saturday, we're talking about an even more intense Arctic air mass sliding down into the southern plains again. Bone-chilling cold is making a comeback to the exact same areas that just got walloped with no real warm-up in sight. If moisture sneaks out of the Pacific or the Gulf again, we might see some snow chances pop back up in parts of the southern plains or southeast. But I don't think it's going to be anything like what we just witnessed over the last few days. This looks more like passing light to moderate snow showers around Thursday and Friday of this week. We could get a little bit of snow underneath another Arctic hypersurf system parked over Canada. This isn't expected to be as significant as what we just went through. But Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and the Mid-Atlantic could see some passing snow. If we get some kind of setup where Gulf moisture meets cold northern air, that could allow for maybe a little snow near the Gulf Coast. Right now, the GFS model is showing a very narrow band of snow in Louisiana. But trends could shift toward something more widespread over the next few days. As of right now, though, it's going to be nothing compared to what we just experienced. So don't brace yourself for another major winter storm right away. And then by next week and into early February, That's where things get a lot foggier in terms of the overall weather pattern. The crystal ball gets pretty murky at that point. Now let me dig into the temperature outlook specifically, because this is absolutely critical for understanding when snow and ice will finally start to melt. Monday afternoon isn't going to get above freezing for most of you, especially in Tennessee, Texas, and Oklahoma. Tuesday doesn't look much better either, with most areas in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Oklahoma staying around or just below freezing all day long. Wednesday is going to be frigid across the southern plains and Ohio Valley, with temps well below zero in some spots during the morning. And then Wednesday afternoon and Thursday. That cold is just going to keep clinging to areas like Texas and Oklahoma. This means some of the snow and ice out there might not melt until at least Thursday. Friday, maybe even Saturday in some places. We're just not going to get any real surge of warm air. And with another Arctic blast expected by Saturday, things are going to stay rough. We're not looking at anything pleasant weather-wise, probably until at least sometime during the middle of next week at the earliest. So it's going to be cold out there for an extended stretch. Thank you guys, see you next video.